Hey witches, welcome to Busy, Gritty, Inked and Witchy, a magical living podcast for the busy witch. I'm Morgan, eclectic witch of almost 25 years, Avalon priestess, and busy witch. Here we'll talk all things witchy, from current metaphysical happenings to my busy witch tips and tricks, and everything in the in-between. This podcast is my personal journey, filled with my knowledge, opinions, and unique way of looking at the world. Join me as I weave the magical and the mundane in every episode. Hey witches, welcome back to Busy, Gritty, Inked and Witchy. I'm Morgan, and today, the podcast episode is called From Love and Light Witch to Grey Witch. I'm going to tell you right now, not amazingly fond of the title. I'll tell you why in a second, but it gets the point across as to what today's podcast episode is, so that's why I'm leaving it, okay? So a great power time for me, believe it or not, is during my morning shower. There's something about standing in that water, coming down and, cleansing me. Of course, I visualize it, cleansing negative energy and all that, but ideas come to me. And usually they're things for the business, but they'll pop in and we'll run with it and it will be pretty successful. So my shower time is just my download time. And yeah, so I was in the shower and I was trying to think of, okay, what am I going to do for a podcast episode? And this is the title that popped into my head, which I think is really funny because it is very similar to a podcast episode, or the premise of it is similar to a podcast episode I did back in 2021. And I re-listened to that episode to make sure that, or I don't know, to see what I was saying back then. And I started off that podcast the exact same way. It was a title that came to me in a meditation. And I think that it's really funny because it's the same thing popping up again for me, but in a totally different way. So today I am going to talk about my journey from being a love and light witch to a gray witch. Again, not fan of the term gray witch, just because I don't consider myself a gray witch. But when I say gray witch, a lot of people know what I'm talking about. So it's a label that I just go ahead and say, all right, I'll stick it on me for right now, but I'm not a fan of it. But before I go into the actual episode, I do, just because I'm here to also educate, we do have a blog post on our website, inkedgoddesscreations.com. If you go to the little search thing, you can type in white magic, black magic, gray magic, something like that, and you'll see it come up in the search over on the side for the posts. Who did this? Megan did. Megan wrote an article about the difference between white, black, and gray magic. So just to define these real quick, to give you the nerdy stuff, and then we're going to jump into it. Technically, magic itself has no color. It's the intentions of the practitioner that lead it to be labeled either white magic, black magic, or gray magic. And magic is so complex that even trying to put it into three categories is a little useless, to be honest. But as these are terms that a lot of practitioners understand, or especially if you're a beginner witch, they're terms that are used quite frequently because everyone knows what they mean. So white magic, I'm just going to read directly from the website. Generally speaking, white magic is magic done for the benefit of ourselves or others by raising positive energy for a particular outcome. Black magic is done to bring harm to others. And gray magic is exactly what it sounds like, the gray area in between the two. Okay, so there's your nerdy stuff out of the way. And just the definitions of white, black, and gray magic, even though, like I said, magic has a bazillion different colors. So, magic itself is neutral, but the practitioner, because there's so many different intentions behind magic, therefore making that person's magic a plethora of anything. You know what I mean? And so I think too, it's good to note here that love and light witches, that's another term that is used heavily today. Love and light witches would be considered white witches. Okay, so back at the beginning of my podcast, we're talking episode 6 here, you guys. Episode 6. That was back in 2021. It was in February of 2021. I did an episode called Being a Light Worker in a Dark Witch Aesthetic World. And at the time, this episode was about my journey into embracing the label of light worker. So light worker, love and light witch, white witch. Let's just go ahead and say for the sake of this episode, they are all together. That's all the same thing. So while I still hold true what I said in that episode, I'm not sitting here going, that episode was bullshit. No. At the time, this was 3 years ago, over 3 years ago. That was where I was at in my journey, and I still hold true to what I consider my definition of a light worker, which is a person who has been to the dark side, battled their demons, done the shadow work, and they choose to work with light energy. Okay, I still hold true to that. This is still me to a certain extent at this point in my journey. I've been to the dark side. I continue to go to the dark side all the time, battle my demons, face them head on. Shadow working is a daily practice for me, honestly, between journaling and meditating and everything. Like, I am on a healing journey right now, and I hate how cliche that sounds, but it's been within the last year, especially, that I have uncovered a lot of shit from my childhood. I have uncovered a lot of my boundaries, my limitations that were put on me as a child, but also that I put on myself because of the way I was raised. And I'm done. I'm done having limits on myself. I'm done having limits on what I believe and what I do, and I'm done. And so this is a massive healing journey for me, but it is based heavily in shadow work. So I also mentioned in that episode that I love spreading love and light and choose to only work with light energy. So that's the part of me that has shifted in 3 years, you guys. That is the part of me where I was listening to the podcast episode from 3 years ago going, is that was me? That was me. And it was me. In fact, I don't know if you've noticed, but at some point this year, late last year, I even changed the intro of the podcast because in the original intro, I said I was a self-proclaimed fluffy bunny. And I was claiming that I had claimed that for over a decade. And I would not say I'm a fluffy bunny anymore just because, well, we're going to get into it. Okay. So just for some background, a few months after that episode aired in February of 2021, my family's lives were flipped upside down by some shit that happened, which I choose to not talk about, not because I'm pushing it away or anything, but just because it's not my story to tell. And even trying to tell the parts of the story that I'm in would tell the story on behalf of someone else. And if it's not my place to tell their story, you know? But anyway, some shit happened. Okay. And then about 6 to 9 months after that, the shit hit the fan in the economy and in our business. Okay, we had some internal issues with some employees. We switched offices. We moved into this gorgeous, beautiful office. But the moving over from one office to another, a lot of shit happened. And a lot of internal stuff happened within the business. And so basically, in about March of 2022, the shit hit the fan in the business. And I think I did a episode shortly after that about the power of fuck it, maybe. That probably was the fallout of that particular thing. Yeah. So if you want to go back and listen to that, I'm pretty sure that's when I just said fuck it, because and now I'm giving you more pieces to the puzzle. So things were shifting around me at an extremely fast pace. And that means that things were shifting inside of me at an extremely fast pace because I had to keep up or go in the corner and cry and stay there forever. And that's not what my family needed. That's not what my business needed. That's not what I needed. I don't like throwing pity parties. I'm not a big, huge fan of that. But over this span of 6 to 9 months, between one traumatic event to the next shit hitting the fan event, I grew angry. Okay. I'm going to be honest with you all. And if there's nothing else that you gain from this episode, it's that I am being like this is me. This is me today. It's always me, but like we're getting into it today. I grew angry. I was frustrated. My love and light, oh God, I questioned everything. I questioned my spirituality. I questioned my path. I questioned my practice. But my love and light just failed to shine. And no matter what I did, it failed to shine. I was so angry. I was so frustrated. There were parts of me that were bitter. I was going through every emotion that a human being could go through. Including, there were moments of joy and elation and, there was a roller coaster of emotions. But the more that I tried to work through the quote unquote negative emotions that I was having, and let me tell you too, I know I've said it before, there's no such thing as negative emotions because all emotions show you a part of yourself that you need to see. Okay, so even anger, frustration, being pissed off, jealousy, all of it show you a part of you that you need to explore more in order to see the whole picture of who you are. Okay, so I don't like saying negative emotions, but for lack of a better thing to say during this podcast, we will say that negative emotions or dark emotions would be things like anger, jealousy, being pissed off, frustration, overwhelm. Like these are all quote unquote negative or dark emotions. Okay, so that is just for the purpose of this podcast and for the purpose of me explaining things as clearly as I possibly can for you all. So as I tried to work through this stuff, because I wasn't just going to pass it off. I knew I had to sit in the funk. I had to sit in the anger. I had to sit in the frustration and go to the root of it so I could pull it out and I could heal it and I could work with it and I could let it go. Guilt set in and shame set in. Again, more dark or negative emotions because I wasn't able to just blast love and light at this like I normally had. I didn't have the love and light in me to blast it at it. And it was so hard for me to see the positive and shine my light as I used to. And I totally beat myself up about it every day. I had the Ink Spirit Coven at the time and, I don't even think it was a coven at that point. I think it was just still called Ink Spirit. But I was like, I don't even need to show up anymore. I can't teach these people. I was in such a dark place that I just wanted to burn the world down. Let's say it for what it was. I wanted to burn everything down. So I was feeling the emotions. I was processing them. I was not just passing them off like, oh, things will get better. I was sitting in it and I was trying to work through it. But what I found was that something had shifted in me. And so when I realized that there was this shift, then I was like, okay, it's time to explore this shift because I don't know exactly what it is, but I need to explore it to see what it is, to define it, and to see how I feel about it. So as a love and light witch, going into this whole shifting and this dark shit that's happening to me, I was always sure to ground my energy and focus positive energy on my intentions, my words, all of that. Okay. So that's one thing that I made sure as a love and light witch, like never say anything out of anger, never say anything out of frustration. Make sure I ground my energy and surround it in a little bubble of positivity, and then I can speak it. That's what I thought, and that's what I did. But here I was, pissed off, frustrated. I was ready to burn it all down. And I remember being in this state. I was crying, I was screaming, I was getting the emotions out because I am famous my entire life for bottling up emotions because I wasn't allowed to express emotions growing up. So I was really good at bottling them up. And then shit would happen and it would be like shaking a soda bottle and I would just explode over the tiniest little thing. And that's how I lived my life. So I was feeling into these emotions, trying to process them. So I was crying, I was screaming, I was getting it all out, and I shouted out this intention. I just wish, and then I shouted it. And by the end of the day, this intention manifested. I'm not even kidding you. By the end of the day, this shift that I was feeling on the inside shifted things on the outside. And that's what magic is. Magic is harnessing power for a specific intention and being able to manipulate energy for a specific or a desired outcome. So this intention that I had inside of me, I yelled it out in a fit of anger and frustration. And by the end of the day, it happened. So that was my introduction onto the path that I'm on now. Anger magic and sacred rage are both real things. I'm not going to go into them too much in this episode. This is just like an overall journey episode. But if you're interested, look them up. Anger magic and sacred rage. Now, what I did understand, like I said, magic is the ability to harness energy and manipulate it and direct it towards a specific purpose. That's basically the definition of magic, okay? Anger, frustration, being pissed off, all of that, huge forms of energy. That's what they are. When you break them all down, it is energy. And things like anger, frustration, they can raise some of the most powerful energy in a person. I mean, think about the last time that you were extremely happy and excited about something. And like picture that in your head, feel those emotions. Now think about the last time that you were super fucking pissed off about something. I mean, that energy probably can be a little bit greater. Unfortunately, our world is ruled by anger and frustration and all these emotions right now, but it is through those emotions that major change can happen. And this is what I started to realize, is that throughout my entire love and light witch practice, I was trying to raise positive energy. I was trying to up the positive vibes and harness them so that I could direct them towards positive things. But here I had, sitting in front of me, evidence that anger and rage and frustration and wanting to burn everything down helped me build energy. And when I shouted out my intention, it manifested by the end of the day. Like, that was evidence to me that it was a shift that occurred in my mind, a perspective shift, that energy is energy. And how much you raise or how quickly you raise it, you can do it by any means possible. You can do it with positive vibes. You can do it with dancing to music. You can do it with candles. You can raise energy by singing, by chanting. You can raise energy during meditation. You can also raise energy by getting super fucking pissed off at shit. So why not use this built up energy for magic? Okay, so that's what I started to explore within me. I took this little thread, this little light at the end of a very dark tunnel that I was in at the moment. And this was light. And I didn't take it. It was almost like, if you're thinking about like a comic book story or like a superhero story, like this could be the moment that a supervillain is born. But instead, what I did was I broke it down from an energetic or a magical standpoint and then decided what I would do with energy, with that energy that I was raising during these moments of extreme emotion. And that's what I chose to do with it, okay? So as I explored this, let's just call it what it is, this darker form of witchcraft, my perspective on magic as a whole began to shift. The boundaries that I had set in place to only practice love and light magic began to melt away. And I began to realize during this shift in perspective that sometimes bitches need to be put in jars. Sometimes cutting cords and banishing toxic people or toxic situations is the best thing that you can do for yourself or your sanity or your emotional or mental state. Sometimes karma needs just a little hint of a direction that she can go into and then take over. It started to hit me that not everything in this world should be handled with love and light. And that's the shift that happened in me. Now, if you're still a love and light witch and you're listening to this and you still believe that everything in this world can be dealt with love and light, then that is your path. And I respect that about you. For me, this was my path. And this was a shift that was occurring inside of me. So as I explored this even more, I realized that new boundaries began to form for me. And these could be out the window next week. I don't know. That's the beauty of a spiritual journey. But for me, I said, okay, this can get super villainish. That power and that energy that I was able to raise and having something manifest by the end of a day when you just shouted it out in a fit of anger, that can be intoxicating. It 100% can be. And as a person with a lot of fire and a lot of air in my chart and little to no water or earth, I have to look at myself as a forest fire. I can very easily burn things, and then all I'm doing by being fire and air is I'm just feeding that fire air. I'm giving it more power. Okay. So I have to be conscious of that within myself, of not burning shit down, even though I really want to. And sometimes, or knowing when to burn shit down and knowing when not to. That's a better way of putting it. Okay. So I had to identify my, oh, hell no moments. Okay. These were the limits. These were the things where I'm going to be neutral or remain positive up to a certain point. And that is if you fuck with me, my family, or my business. Those are my, oh, hell no limits right there. Okay. Before, if someone fucked with one of these things, then I sent them love and light. I said that in episode 6. That is what I did. Now, if they cross that boundary, that's a boundary I have set. Myself, my family, my business. And technically, there's a fourth one that will make you giggle. It's my food. You don't fuck with my food, okay? And I know I'm laughing right now. That is, of course, a lesser limit. So it is definitely myself, my family, my business. And then is like a little asterisk under that, or in parentheses, you can see my food. I just have a personal thing. You don't fuck with my food. Okay. Anyway, so now if they cross that boundary, if someone crosses that boundary, then I will do what I need to do to protect these things that I love. And I love myself, my family, and my business. I love my food too. So that was the first boundary that I had to set in this new magical path that I was going down. Okay. The second one is that personally, I still choose my words carefully. It is a choice, but I still want to make sure that I do that. I choose my words carefully, and that I still ground some of that energy down. And I calm myself to a certain extent just to make sure that I am harnessing the energy correctly and I am using it in a way that I want to use it. Okay. So that's where you take the anger, the frustration, the jealousy, the depression, the whatever you are currently sitting in that has raised an enormous amount of energy. And instead of just shooting off the hip like, oh, this and this and this and this, I still choose to ground for a second. I will take a deep breath. I will think about the words that are getting ready to come out of my mouth, and I will phrase them in a way that I am comfortable with sending into the world. Okay, because do I personally believe in the rule of 3? No, that is a Wiccan thing. I don't believe that what I put out comes back to me times 3. I do believe in what I put out coming back overall, just as like from a human being standpoint. Like, I don't want to put shit into the world, because then when shit happens to me, I have no one to blame but myself, you know? But on another hand, does shit just happen sometimes? Yeah, shit just happens sometimes. I don't believe that every shit thing that happens to me I caused either. So there's lines of reality in that weave into the magical, that weave into just everything, how everything is connected, that you have to figure out for yourself. Okay, do I believe in the rule of 3? Do I believe that what I put out comes back to me? Do I believe in just being a decent human being for the shit of it? Do I believe that I create everything that happens to me? Those are things you have to figure out for yourself on your own journey. But as far as I'm concerned, I've seen the power that raising so much energy from anger, from rage, from frustration, and then shouting out something into the world, I've seen how powerful that can be. So I choose to ground myself first and make sure that the words that are coming out of my mouth are clear and clearly depict the intention that I'm trying to manifest. Okay, but I sit in it. I allow that anger, that frustration, I sit in it and I hold on to it and I use it, because it is energy. And that is what you are trying to do with magic. So I take that energy and I hold on to it, and then I focus myself and I focus my intention and I focus all of that shit that I have built up, and I shoot it out into a direction for an intention. And I do it from a grounded place. Still, even when I'm pissed off and I'm angry, it's taken practice. But this is what I've chosen to do for myself. These are the boundaries I've put into place for right now. Now, do I go around hexing people for the fuck of it? I don't. I really don't. But I also don't go around blasting love and light at someone who's trying to harm me, my family, or my business, or my food. I don't do that either anymore. So that's why what I'm doing, the magic that I choose to practice right now, is technically gray magic. You know, I will go and, of course, do amazing spells or set intentions for growth and prosperity and, you know, love and harmony and peace, and I will do that. But I will also harness strong emotions that I'm feeling that are quote unquote negative emotions, and I will use that energy to also perform magic for whatever is needed in my life at that time. And to be honest, I don't label it anymore. So I don't have white magic spells and dark magic or black magic spells and it's just who I am and how I'm practicing my magic right now. It's also slightly moving into the path of chaos magic, which I'm going to be exploring more from a nerdy standpoint first. Just read up on it, read about it. But I've not only been told by people that my anger magic or my sacred rage is pretty strong, but I've been looking at more about chaos magic, which doesn't necessarily mean, you know, chaos magic is a thing where a lot of, how do I want to say this? Chaos magic is misunderstood. A lot of people in the community think that it is someone who causes chaos on purpose to get what they want. And while that is a form of chaos magic, another form of chaos magic is basically doing whatever you feel like doing for a spell or for a ritual. And you may never do the same thing twice ever again. You may never cast a circle the same way twice. You may never perform a spell the same way twice. You're using the energy that's available and the tools that are available to do what you need to do. And so that's another form of chaos magic. And that's the one where I'm going to start reading. I'm just very curious. I'm very interested in it. But it's never my intention to cause chaos or to harm anyone who is not blatantly fucking with me, my family, my business, or my food. I'm definitely not going to hex someone for fucking with my food. Yeah. And I would say I don't even really hex. If we're being honest about it, I wouldn't even say I hex. I am a fan of putting bitches into jars. That's what I do. But I don't necessarily see that as a hex. I see it more as a protection method, because I'm putting someone in a jar with some shit that, like, if they weren't fucking with me, they wouldn't have been put in a jar. You know? It's almost like a fuck around and find out kind of thing, you know? But for me, putting people into jars or putting situations, because you can put a situation into a jar to banish it. It's a banishing. It's not really a hexing. It's I want this person to stop fucking with me or my life, you know? So that's what I do. That's my form of that. I can't even say that I've ever hexed a person. Like, I'm sitting here thinking about it right now. Like, flat out, like you would think a hex, you know? Yeah, I don't think so. I think I've done karma spells before. I've definitely buried a bunch of people in jars in my backyard. So, yeah. But anyway, that's what I have for you all today. My journey from being a love and light witch to, for lack of a better word, a gray witch, where I'm just going to do what's needed. But I also have learned how to harness darker or negative, again, with quotation marks around them, emotions to use in magic. And I'm not going to lie, it's number one, it's freeing. It's freeing as shit. And I think it helps you tap into your power more. You know, I think that for a lot of witches, they think, oh, I can't do that, or I can't say that because that's wrong. That's dark. I don't want to be a dark witch, or I can't do that. Oh my God, just do it. See what happens. I mean, harness, like, tap into that energy, play around with it, because you don't know who you are, what you're capable of until you explore all things. And if you're completely denying one whole side of energy, then you're not tapping into your full energy, because no human on the face of the earth is only love and light. No human can only embody positive energy. We all have all emotions and all energy within us. So by only working with positive, or only working white magic, or only working with things that are less controversial, you're actually limiting your own power and denying yourself the ability to tap into who you truly are and all aspects of you. So it's almost about erasing the taboo around what the witchcraft community has deemed as appropriate or inappropriate. I think that that's dumb. Whatever's appropriate or inappropriate is for you to define, not for anyone to define for you. Like, I see all day long, oh God, I'm just on a tangent now. Let's just roll with it, right? I see all day long, this is a fun thing. I love it. I love it and I hate it at the same time. On TikTok and Instagram, so many women who use their, we're just going to say, moon blood in spells. I love that for them. I'm not going to lie. I watch these videos, okay? I love that they are comfortable enough with that to perform magic in that way, and that they're comfortable enough in that to share it with the world. Do I personally play around in my moon blood every month and use it for things? I don't. That's a no for me, you know? But when I see these videos, I at least entertain it in my head for about 2.5 seconds. I'm like, could I? No, I'm good. So even just by entertaining the idea, you're releasing that taboo, you're releasing that shadow, you're saying, okay, I thought about it, still not going to do it, but I respect those people that do it. You know what I mean? So the only person that can put limitations on your magic and what is deemed appropriate and inappropriate is you. These women who play in their moon blood every month, that's appropriate for them. So I'm not going to judge them. I don't find it appropriate for me. It's not a path I want to go down. You're the only person that can make those decisions. And the more things that you release the taboo of, and the more things you explore, the more you learn about yourself. And that is what we are doing this year in the Ink Spirit Coven. I did not mean for that transition to be so smooth, but man, when the opportunity arises, one should just take it, right? This year in the Ink Spirit Coven, we are working on rewilding your inner witch. And it just so happens that coming up in the month of August, we are going to be exploring the spicier side of witchcraft. So I'm calling it untamed witchcraft, but this is where we're going to dive into things like chaos magic, sex magic, anger magic, things like that. Now that's in August because basically the whole year has been split up by seasons and by elements. So from March, April, and May, we worked with the element of air, where we worked with setting powerful intentions, meditation and visualization, and spell writing. That was the third part. So those replays are available. Even if you join the Ink Spirit Coven right now, you can go to the archives, to the past lessons. You can watch the videos. You can download the Book of Shadow pages. The spell writing class even had a little PowerPoint presentation. I was pretty proud of myself. So you can still go through those. But now we're in the summer. We're in fire. So for the month of June, we did using fire for empowerment, where we dove into spiritual alchemy. And let me tell you, it was very scary for me to dive into that subject because you hear spiritual alchemy and it can be a little crazy. And you have a lot of the people out there that are using that term. But the coven members loved it. I explained it in a way that they were like, oh my God, I'm going to start doing this. This is freaking crazy. And this is amazing. And so those replays still available. Now coming up for July, we're doing candle magic. And we're doing candle magic. I'm going to be teaching about it in the live lesson. And we're going to be doing a candle magic workshop. Both are on Zoom. And then in August, we move into the untamed witchcraft along with a fire releasing ritual, because we're working with the element of fire for the whole summer. The fall, we're moving on to water. And then in the winter, we're moving on to earth. But the whole year will take you on not only a magical journey where you're going to be learning magical knowledge, and it doesn't matter if you're a beginner or you've been practicing for 40 years. We actually have both in the coven. But you're going to learn magical knowledge, but you're also going to be going through this personal transformation into your authentic self, who you are, letting your inner witch out, and letting her run wild, or him or her, letting him run wild. Okay, so that's the purpose of the whole year of the Ink Spirit Coven right now. So I would love to have you join, because this is how I am in the coven. So if you really resonated with this episode or any of my past episodes, this is what you get from me on a monthly basis in the Inked Spirit Coven. So you can head to inkedspirit.com to learn more and sign up there. I want to thank you all for listening. This was a long episode today because I fucking loved the subject. And at the end there, just went on a tangent. I love it. I love being able to do this. I love teaching. I love spreading my knowledge and my journey. I mean, I've been on this journey since I was probably 15 years old, but really heavily for the last 25 years. So I love being able to share that with people. And I love hearing from you all, whether it's via email or whether you hit me up on social media. I'm at Ink Goddess Creations on Instagram. And that's where I usually hang out. So I love hearing the feedback from you all. And I definitely want to thank you all for listening so much and for being here, for giving me a platform to be my crazy self. Like, honestly. And if this podcast, if you really do love the podcast, please rate it, share it, do all of that kind of fun stuff. I know I don't say that a lot, but I would love if you did, because this is my hobby, but I would love for it to reach as many witches, especially witches who are questioning. I think that's my biggest thing, is trying to shed some light on things for them. So yeah, share, like, comment, do all of the things that we're supposed to do in today's society, please. But I will see you all again soon. Thanks.